well, there's significant lag, I guess, but today I've been asked some questions, some of the main issues that seem to be facing people with the AWS CWI test, and I've received quite a few direct messages and emails regarding two main things, I guess, that are now on the CWI exam that they weren't on there when I took it 5 or 6, 7 years ago now. But they seem to be on there now, and they're giving people a hard time. The first one is the 3 characteristics of a weld throat: your actual throat, the effective throat, and the theoretical throat. And I'll be drawing that on the board here in a second. The second one is that they want you to calculate the weight of a piece of steel. I will show you the calculations on how to calculate the weight of a piece of steel, and also if you look in the description down below, you'll be able to find I've made a calculator through an Excel spreadsheet, and you can look at that and be able to enter in the length and the width and the thickness, and it'll give you the answer. And we'll also go through exactly what the formula is. It's not real difficult to calculate, but if you're caught cold and you have no idea where to begin, it's almost an impossible question. So let's get started. I'll give people a minute or two to come on in here if we're going to have any live viewers, or if it'll just be watched later on by whoever wants to see it. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the 3 phases of a weld throat, or the 3 types of weld throats. The first one being the actual weld throat. So if I drew a fillet weld on here, it looks something like this, and it would have some penetration that would come through kind of like this. So the actual throat is from this very outside edge here. Let me get a different color. Is from this outside edge right here, the very edge, to the very inside, a maximum spot of penetration right there. And that's your actual. That's the actual throat. Now where it starts to get confusing is the effective throat. But next let's cover the theoretical throat. So the theoretical throat is if it was a perfect triangle. And that's how this can be remembered, is the perfect triangle that goes from here, down here, across here, from the face of this right here to the very point where these 2 pieces of metal come together. This is your theoretical throat. That's your theoretical throat. Now, the third throat that you have to be aware of is called the effective throat. The effective throat comes from this point right here, as if it was straight across. So you take where your maximum convexity is, and right where it starts to become convex and meets the apparent material, at those points right there, that's where the effective throat begins. So your effective throat comes off from right here, and it ends at the very back of this reinforcement, in the same spot that the actual throat is. So the same spot of the actual throat is right at the very end here. So this right here, from here to here, that's your effective throat. there were more people on, I would. If there's any other questions that come up about this, please feel free to email me, or you can direct message me right on Facebook, or feel free to leave it in your questions in the comments. These are the three throats that are associated with any weld. The AWS exam words it about 6 different ways. They'll ask you what the effective throat is, what the actual throat is, what the theoretical throat is, and then they'll draw it differently, instead of having a diagram where all 3 are able to be picked out, they'll have a diagram of just the effective throat, or the theoretical throat, and ask you what throat they're pointing at or describing. So this becomes an issue as well. It's a difficult question if you haven't seen it. It's something that's not too difficult if you've made yourself familiar with it. But if you haven't, it can be very difficult. And the questions are asked so many different times on the fundamental portion of the exam that if you don't know these, it can very heavily affect your overall score and make the difference from passing or not passing. All right, the next thing that I want to cover that's been causing some trouble is calculating weld or material weight. So something that can give you an effective edge for the next inspector, or it's a question on the AWS exam recently, is being able to calculate how much a piece of steel weighs. So today we're going to imagine that we have a piece of steel. Just for the sake of doing the calculation, let's say that this is 5 inches wide by let's go with 12 inches long, and overall the thickness is 3/8 of an inch, or also 0.0375. Sorry, not 0, just 0.375 is 3/8 of an inch. So you'll see on the test something like this, and they'll ask you to explain or give, if multiple choice, at least pick the answer that gives how much this piece of flat bar weighs. If you've never done it before or seen it, it can be difficult, but if you're familiar, it's not that difficult. You take the length times the width times the thickness, multiply that by 0.283. That's the density. The density of steel ranges between 0.280 and 0.290. Depending on the thickness, or not the thickness, depending on the density of the steel itself. When I say density, if you were to take a 1-inch cube of steel and weigh it, how much it weighs is the density of a steel. And you could do the same thing with wood or anything. You're taking the cubic inch and multiplying it by the volume, and that gives you the answer to how much your specific piece of steel weighs. And again, I've put a calculator in the description, so if you want to download that, you can just enter in your length, width, and thickness, and it'll give you the total pounds. It also has, for doing pipe, the length, the outside diameter, and the wall thickness, and it'll give you your poundage for her pipe. Anyway, so we have our width, we have our length, we have our thickness. So we'll take the length, which is 12, times our width, which is 5, multiply that by 0.375, and we'll take all that and multiply that by 0.283. You enter that into your calculator, and it'll give you 6.37 pounds. If there's anybody that has any questions on that, again, same thing. You can enter it into the comments. You can send me an email, or feel free to download the calculator, and it'll give you the answers. It'll help you work through problems that you want to do yourself. And if you have any questions, or if there's any part that you're struggling with, definitely feel free to get in touch with me, and I can help you work through your problems. Doesn't look like there's any questions coming through on the chat, so if that's everything, definitely hit that subscribe button. I appreciate all of the subscribers. That keeps me motivated to keep making videos, and I hope to see you on the next one.